Hello, everyone. It's Cheryl Millett here. Mondays live at 5, all things healthy. So it's good to have a chat. Good to see more and more people come on here. But it really is exciting times because of the many things that we actually have available to us on health, on longevity, and I'm actually including the things from the past as well. And it is most important that we keep an open mind as to the direction some are going and the direction where we actually come from. And I'm going to talk about that in the way of nature and being natural. There's every bone in my body that says that greed isn't going anywhere, and that businesses, yes, should thrive and survive and all of that, but at what cost or at what help to people? So it is for all of us actually here to think for ourselves. That is going to be absolutely critical. So as I go through, the days, things come and I'm able to pick up information. I am very grateful to people that send me what they feel is important to learn or important to get exposed to. And the more and more I do that, it becomes clear that it really is, natural health is actually simpler than we actually believe it. And either we're putting people or experts or ways or supplements or processes or programs on a pedestal, and that's because we think it's always going to be better. And I don't believe that to be true. I think we've gotten offside by trying to make things fancier, or that there's this big word that I want to put out there, which is lazy. And it's all been worked out in the sense of we need more money, you want a bigger house, you want more cars, you want to have this and that in life, the things, materials and all that kind of stuff. So everyone have, to blame. Each and every one of us is responsible for our health, so we're actually to blame to where we are, but we do have the ability to make some changes. So one of the things, a few things actually, maybe get just to a couple things. I want to try and keep the talks to 20 minutes. One of the things that kind of came up is the idea around, lazy is a big word, but the idea is at some point in our from 100 years ago or 200 years ago or 60 years ago, we've gotten towards convenience. And you've heard that word, convenience in packaged foods. We're not preparing our own foods from fresh foods, which is very, very important. In that, I've mentioned this before, in doing that, in actually having store-bought, on the shelf food, and food that's been stored for months at a time, and I'm even talking about the produce, right? It's picked and it's kept in the room that's kept in. We actually reduce the amount of microbes that exist there. And this is a very important topic that you're going to hear about, and you're always probably going to be hearing about it, is that whole thing around, hello everyone, it's really the thing around, you've heard this word sterilization, sterile. Now when it comes to a body that's having surgery, absolutely, because the system is very well protected for things you put in your mouth, other things. That's just, our whole skin, what comes into the skin, the amount of protection is there. But when you have an open wound, that's a different story. It's direct access into the blood. And this is where, it's where when they did the original vaccines, they'd put a cut on your arm, and then sepsis, which they call serious blood infections, and then you die. And so wounds, injury, those kind of things, we just can't have those open wounds. But the idea with our food in our gut, right? When we call the gut microbes, we got more bacteria than we do cells in the body. Like all of this language, we have to think about when we are buying our food that really it doesn't have the nature that it is. Like if you pick an apple off a tree, there's probably a number of bacteria, microbes, let's call them, that exist on there. And at once upon a time, you just pick food and just eat it. I mean, I do pick food in the wild and eat it. And I do it partially because I know the natural microbes and thing that's living in there, and it's very good for us. So we have to think about consuming foods. If you have a garden, and so what if the vegetable has a little bit of dirt on it? Just eat it, because dirt is natural microbes. One of the things I told somebody was at a health show, and they talked about the gut health. And I said, "Do you have a garden?" He made wood stuff. And he says, "Yes, we do." And I said, "Well, it's straight from the garden. You can't see anything on there like worms or other things that you may just visually see on there. I mean, give it a shake, whatever it is, and just eat it that way. There'll be natural microbes there." But when we sterilize, I don't think most people realize that the hand sanitation, yes, besides it being a poison, is really being looked at as being banned. It doesn't fully cover. How can it really fully protect? It gets access, in through to the body via the skin, via that. But you're killing, the very microbes that might be protecting you. The other thing I would say about that too is, if you have a cut or wound, that's a different thing. But is the what do you call it? Mouthwashes, right? The mouthwashes. So these things that are like antibacteria, antimicrobial, that are more chemical related. Not the things that are natural that might be like a clove. You could, I've mentioned this before, you could put a whole clove in your mouth and just kind of moisten it and then kind of press on it. And that will help with breath. So we're thinking about breath. We should really think more about lungs and more about the stomach when we think about breath, and it's for a bigger topic. But the idea is, if we're going to move to more natural building of bacteria or microbes in the body, we have to think that most of the food that we're putting into our body, especially packaged and stuff, has been sterilized. It has been cooked. Vegetable oils, refining, so that there's really nothing natural there about replenishing the natural bacteria or the microbes in the body. And if we continue to do that, that's partially the issue. Now, I'm exploring some things around this. I just want you to be mindful that when you're putting chemicals in your body, chemicals and preservatives that are all in the foods, that would be the one thing, is to really get down on, lower the amount of preservatives, especially artificial ones, but so many of them. But the preservatives, the MSGs, nitrates, those kind of things. Salt is a natural preservative, so you have to be careful. Even natural can be a little bit overabundance. Salt has been known to preserve food for a very long time, but you would want to wash the salt off if you're preserving it, dipping things in salt. We don't want to consume as much salt. By that way, we may crave salt, and we can surely, with our taste buds, build up to liking more salt, but we don't really want to be consuming that much salt. If you drink salt water, so here's the balance. There's natural salt in food, or sodium, which we do need, and that's warranted. But if you go to the other extreme, salt water that's in the sea, you can't drink that, right? You can't drink that. If you drink the salt water from the sea, you're going to die. Most people think because the salt comes into our body, into our blood, and dehydrates, but that's not what it does. Actually, what the salt water does in the sea, if you knew what it really does, there's actually healing potential here, which is what I teach people on the internal saltwater bath. And you can get that on my website, and I would use it for anybody who is in a place where they just hear that they have cancer. Those kind of things will clear out the gut, and you can replenish the microbes. But the idea is when you drink salt water, what it does is it does not enter the system, like some people may say. Now, I'm only going by a few things that I'm reading and then other things, but the idea is it's like your blood does have salt in it, and the ocean has salt in it. So what happens is it doesn't come through. What it does is it actually goes right through you, and this is where you'll get diarrhea, the runs. And so what you end up doing is you end up cleansing, yes, the mucus and some things that you don't want in there, which is why the internal saltwater bath, using it at home, not because you're starving and floating along the ocean. But if you do drink salt water, if you are stranded on the ocean, and you don't know when you're going to be safe, you don't know when you're going to find fresh water, any of that, you do not want to drink the salt water, because it will take everything out of your intestine. So they'll be squeaky clean for the most part, especially over time, multiple ones. And really, the water that gets brought in through the food, right? Because a lot of food is water. If you're eating fruits and vegetables, and even meat has 50% water. But the idea is from your food, you're getting water, and that's absorbing through the large intestine. And that water would not get absorbed. So your food, any food that you had in your system, that your digestive system would actually just go right through you. And therefore, you would not have any food left in your digestive system to absorb the water from, where we would at least, if you had some meals and you're stranded on the ocean, at least you would have some of that water from the food, and that would be great. So that's kind of, good on one side for cleaning, drinking salt water. But when we come to, again, the microbes and the bacteria, along with drinking that salt water, you're just going to flush everything out for the most part. Now, the beauty thing is, my understanding would be that consuming the very foods that we do, if it's raw milk, if it's fruits, vegetables from the gardens, where we're not, soaking it in, you're not soaking it. You don't really need to soak that food. If you don't trust your soil, that's one thing. But the other side of it is you need these microbes. So I think by breathing, I think by swallowing, I think by just eating food in its natural state. Many of these foods have waxes and sprays on them that, besides having the chemicals being introduced into your system that may be harming or killing, antibiotics kills the good bacteria, and the bad bacteria kills both bacterias. And this has been a huge issue for a lot of people over the years, when medical didn't know any different. Now they seem to recommend yogurt with good bacteria, those kind of things. But there's bacteria in cheese. Preferably the soft cheeses are better on your gut. But this is just a concept I want you to keep thinking about, whereas we need to get the healthy bacteria, microbes within our day-to-day kind of living, and we don't want to kill them, right? We don't want to wipe them out either. And this is where, if we're thinking about colds and flus and stuff, we've got to let certain things take their course. That's natural. If you get into the drugs that kill everything, there's going to be times, but what we all have to understand is we have to strengthen the nervous system, strengthen the immune system, because some people are definitely susceptible or have a compromised nervous system or immune system. Medications, a lot of medications will have side effects, and that will come into play as well. So it's a big topic, microbes and bacteria. And you just have to think about what it is that you're exposing your body to, especially that you'd be taking in. And yes, you don't want those preservatives. So you are going to eat more natural. You are going to eat more foods that are abundant in natural microbes. And like I said, if you have a garden, or feel free to grow some herbs or a little bit. You can do a lot in a little space these days. Just eat them out of the pot. As long as you visually can't see you can't see that, a bird pooped on it or something like that, right? You just shake it off, wipe it off, but there's still going to be microbes there. And I think it's important that we understand how the body works more and more, and will be very, very important. Another thing that I wanted to kind of just bring up briefly, because a lecture presentation that I'm creating is going to be around mental health. And it is clear from reading big textbooks. I don't know if too many of you are familiar with, let me see if I can get this here better here. It's, a lot of people are. Is it going to come up? Anyway, it's to do with life extension. That's it. And life extension was kind of cool because they go to supplements and nutrients and things like that. And around mental health, it's a big thing around omegas. And in there, they state very clearly, due to research, that we're having too much saturated fats and too much of the omega-6s, which is, in my eyes, the refined oils, all the vegetable oils. So that's your homework, always to look at what vegetable oils are in your food. And it won't matter if it says organic soybean oil, organic canola oil, organic vegetable oil. They're still going to be all refined, unless it says actually cold pressed. But these fats, you're going to be allowed to have some saturated fats. But the idea is people who are on diets where there's a lot of meat, perhaps, and there's still monounsaturated fats and stuff, you're going to get imbalance of fats. And if the critical fats are so important for brain function, that the brain, if you take away the water, the brain is mostly made of fats, then that's going to impact not just the mental functioning and depression or mood, it's also affecting the nervous system at that level, the immune system, the hormonal system. So moods, never mind, menopausal stuff, but just moods alone can be completely correlated to deficiencies. And this is where fats are very important. And about the sterilization, we kind of get back to that. That's the whole refining of fats to keep them and to keep the food from oxidizing and those kind of things. So it's not a bad thing to have things oxidize, but that's where you kind of consume your food quicker. If you can open a bottle of something, even like olive oil, you want to make sure that you actually use it all within a shorter period of time. So many people are, including myself, guilty over the years, practicing how to use up things quickly, how to increase the longevity of whole foods. But the idea is we can only do so much, but we got to be kind of cognitive or recognizing the very things that kind of impact our health, impact our gut health. And there's the gut-mind connection, right? The brain, the mind, the gut, there's all this kind of connection that has to be looked at. It's very much so that way. The other thing that I wanted to bring up today, here's a fun word for you, because some of you know that I'm reading that health and longevity, I guess you could say it's a textbook, right? 1,400 pages. And some of the language in there is really fun to actually read it. And so if I say nappies, does anybody here know what I mean when I say nappies, or the various meanings around napkins? Now, some of you might be kind of pulling out all kinds of things from memory when we think of napkins. But so in the book, it actually refers, because I was looking at infant health. So whether you have infants yourself, or you did, or people that do, or whatever it is, in the book on the babies and infants, the diapers are called napkins. And I was talking to somebody who was older in the walk club, and nappies was, she goes, yes, we used to call them nappies. So that is very interesting. But the thing I want to bring out here more and more, that around the babies, what was kind of, it popped in a few times, whether it's for health and especially in the summer. They actually had a difference between summer and winter when it came to how you think about the babies or the infants. Let's just talk up infant to 1 year old. A few things. One was fresh air. They say every morning you air out, fresh air out, do some cleaning. And I might not be able to read everything. It's, as you know, it's a very, very heavy book. But yeah, during the summer months. So this is where some increases of sickness and death among young children are during the summer months. Is that largely to ignorance on the part of the mothers and nurses? They had more nurses then, but so they wanted to talk about bathing the child every day, once a day, in tepid water. So not hot water, tepid is water. So that, and we can think about that for ourselves as well, where it's good to air out the body. So if you're having just a very brief tepid water shower every day, because remember, our skin is absorbing but also releasing toxins, and we want a kind of airiness, this whole airing and not too hot. So whether we think about the same thing for ourselves in the summer, the baby's temperature doesn't regulate the same way on its own when it's born. So that's why it's so important not to overdress a baby and to allow it to breathe and to be careful. You know, there's various things you can look at. All tight, yes. So it talks about all tight clothing, bandaging, and everything to make sure that the clothing is light and cool. And again, they don't bring it up, although from what I read, but from what I understand, it's partially because a young infant cannot manage their own body temperature. And sometimes, and I know this to be true, adults are feeling very cold, you know, due to their own things, maybe hormone things and stuff like that. Whereas you look at the children and they're perfectly fine. You know, they're not going blue in the face, they're not shivering or anything like that. And we want to just dress them up. Even as it gets cold, we want to bundle them up and put too much clothes on. I think we should listen to the children a little bit more on where they're feeling cold. Sure, if their lips go blue, you know, we have to mention to them and they'll know, but that's the idea. So fresh air, how we bundle the clothing on infants as well, but I think for ourselves as well. And the other thing was it was very much in here that the only proper food for infants was actually breast milk, which that's come around big time. But in here they had various, when there are times when you can't nurse or such, they actually have some remedies in here, which is lime and water, how to take cow's milk. But they do talk about here fresh cow's milk. And again, just to the idea that the food that we tend to buy for babies, if we're not able to nurse, is all that processed longer shelf life food. It's not in here. They talk about fresh cow's milk, and fresh cow's milk would not have been homogenized. It would not have been pasteurized. The microbes would be in there, and you have nature. So whether that's goat's milk or cow's milk, cow's milk is mostly here in Western, but goat's milk very much. I think the milk on this planet is mostly drank by the various cultures is actually goat. That's what's available. But the idea is just to understand just how much food has changed in the last 100 years to be refined, to be pasteurized, to be heated, to be processed, and that would not be healthy for our gut. It would not have a healthy impact of supporting good bacteria and healthy microbes, which would then affect the immune system, and it would affect the absorption, because what most people may not understand is when you consume foods that are not healthy for your body is going to deal with it the best way it can. And sometimes what really happens is your digestive system gets congested, it gets bogged down, and if you expect things to get absorbed properly when the system is dealing with processed foods, chemicals, and toxins, you can just imagine that those foods are not wanted, and that the body would just want to not absorb that, let alone, unfortunately, the food. But as things kind of get sorted out in the gut, you may get some nutrient absorption. But if there's definitely a correlation between nutritional deficiencies and many of the diseases, I mean, just in my deep research on omegas, many diseases that have been tested for various nutrients, and omegas, remember, omegas fats, those are macronutrients, and so amino acids would be there as well. They're deficient. They're deficient. So deficiencies exist. Unfortunately, sometimes the symptoms aren't where you're going to go to the doctor. We've definitely come to a place where deficiencies are accepted, right? The symptoms are accepted. Cloudy fogginess, there's really no measurement for that. But energy, I'll get back to that. Energy will give you a big clue as to how you are eating or how your lifestyle is, both, eating and lifestyle. That's going to be so important. So that's really kind of where I wanted to really come in tight today, is around the bacteria, the healthy bacteria, the microbes that live within. Remember, some of this bacteria is probably clearing up and cleaning up things, where it's probably like a symbiotic relationship that we might not know enough about. And that's always important to remember as well, that we kind of have that. So I just really wanted to kind of tackle that. What can you do about healthy microbes? I will say breathing in, because the air has microbes and things in it too as well. And there's this thing about people just doing so much shallow breathing and not breathing in fully. So take your time throughout the day. Other things might be that if you can have things like kefir, things like raw milk, raw goat milk, raw milk, maybe goat's cheese, stuff like that. You've got to, again, most things in the store are going to be like, there's an element of needing to pasteurize. It's all rules and regulations. Eating herbs and certain plants from gardens, but not washing, especially not in chlorinated water. If it's your own fruits and vegetables, you absolutely know they haven't been sprayed, waxed, all those kind of chemicals. You may want to give, things a certain wipe, or again, just kind of that way. How else? Well, then you want to avoid anything that's antimicrobial in a chemical sense, right? Using the hand sanitizers, if you use them at home, if you carry with them, so stop using those kind of things. Partially is because yes, it can get into your mouth somehow, or you get onto something, and then you're eating it. It's chemicals, and the preservatives in food. So you're really coming at, you want to introduce the healthy microbes, and at the time you want to take away the things that would be killing the highly beneficial good bacteria and microbes, right? So you've kind of got these two things, and it's all about the little steps, right? All about the little steps. And so some of the things, well, you might see this is, odds and sods. This is my new scarf. It's really just odds and sods from various scarves that I made for people for holiday gifts. And I really just wanted to kind of use them up. So it's fun. It's fun to do projects and be creative. A couple things I wanted to mention. I have talked about iridology on here, and it's about time that I actually do an iridology clinic here in my office instead of health food stores and other practices. So I'm going to do that every month. So if you're in Toronto area, it'll be like a Saturday. So when I'm saying a clinic is like from 10 to 5. There'll be times where I can meet people where I'll book appointments, and then there'll be the time where in a couple of hours where we do a presentation for an hour, but then I'll take pictures of people's eyes. It really is for people to understand iridology, but at a science level, what you need to know about iridology is it will show up things before the symptoms appear. Your eyes are your window to your soul, yes, but it's also a window to your health. So it's your constitution that you were born with, and also toxicity levels will be showing their inflammation in various parts. So we don't get into naming disease, but that's, so the Iridology Clinic once a month, I think it's the third Saturday of every month, at least for the next 3, because I might be going away May and June. But if not, then it'll be every month Saturdays. The other thing that I got to mention very quickly is, and ask you, what kind of morning routine exercises do you have? And I've seen the benefit now that I've been doing these exercises for several years, where I don't do them for a few days and then I do them, don't do it for a month, do it for a few weeks. And these are just, and again, you may have your own, but the idea is to learn to relax the body, flexible the body, release the tension in the body, stretch. You know, most people, you're going against your day and just limited movement, you know, sitting, standing, walking, very limited movement. So with a morning fitness routine, not that you have to go in the gym, it's better just to kind of have something, stretch, a bicycle in the air, feet up against the wall, anything. So I'm going to do some YDAN demos. I've not done these before. I've only taught the YDAN classes in some private classes, but not did demos. So I wanted people to get an idea of what kind of level of fitness, or what some interesting things, how they impact the body. So if you have your own, great, but I'll throw in the YDAN movements into the YDAN demonstrations, and that's going to be on the 4th Saturday, just an hour and a half. Actually, it's three sessions, so it's like 10 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11, 11 to 11:30, and the idea is you can stay for 2 if you want. I just want to get an idea so we're not too crowded. You can watch, you can participate. I would think most people want to do them, but you'll get an idea of the benefits more deeply, how it impacts the body. It does, and I think that it might work to fill in the daily start, or if those people who have some sort of, you may do Pilates still, you may do yoga still, your gym workouts, your running, all of that you still do. It's the first morning exercise, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of breathing. Yeah, I'd say stretching, moving, breathing, releasing tension, relaxing, all of that kind of combined into 10, 15, 20 minutes in the morning would really help get things going from the digestive system to the nervous system, and kind of set your day. So I want to encourage people to do that regularly, because it doesn't take away from anything you're doing. It would add and complement anything that you're doing. And then there's a couple of other things I'm going to kind of add to it to be very helpful. Yeah, other than that, what I just wanted to kind of mention too as well, that the walking holidays are on for Ireland this June, but on for Newfoundland next year. We have, everybody's welcome. So I've had so many different situations where, one spouse doesn't want to go on these kind of trips. So because we have a small group of 16 to 20 people, that kind of number, they feel comfortable in being able to go and have this kind of a vacation where the spouse doesn't want to. A great vacation for friends, you know, to hang out. You get to hang out with your friends, talk. You get to meet new friends. Singles are definitely a part of the group. But again, spouses, you know, come to that. So, but I encourage you just to think about what you do for your balance, to get away, do something different, whether that's a day every week, of course, for sure, but you know, a week or two every year. Like, where do you take the time to just get away from it all and plan it and do it? And maybe holidays, maybe vacations, maybe going up to a cottage, might be, but that's where you just kind of get away from it all and relax, be with people, social or not, read books, whatever, get caught up. But it's about getting away from work, that's for sure, the busyness. But balance is very, very key for that. So any questions, anybody, about microbes, about bacteria? I don't think the word is out of how much bacteria or all of the different strains of good bacteria that exist. Once upon a time, it was, you know, one or two, then it worked to several, and then there's more than they can count. So the idea of any of this is, who knows how much or which ones or which strains or how many there are. It's just about working those two things that I was talking about. So I want to thank everybody for coming on board. I'm going to wrap it up now. I'm really going to try hard to get to 30 minutes and even then 20 minutes. But the idea here is to get the information across. It's pure education. Try to simplify things. And where we can prevent and heal, that's where we kind of want to do. And that's what Live at 5 is all about. All things healthy in that realm, you can say it. So best of health, everyone. Take care. Any questions you have, feel free to post down here. This will be uploaded to YouTube, so feel free to subscribe there, and you'll see all of the past videos there. So I'll put a link there, and anything else I can think of, I'll put a link. Other than that, have a great week. Best of health, and I will hope to see you next Monday. Bye for now.